What's up, guys? Jaydaniel here with my co-host Victor Marshall. This is the Sales at Home podcast. Today's gonna be a little bit different, talking about the world, crazy shit going on. I just told Victor, hey, dude, I think the dollar's gonna collapse for XYZ reason. Personally, I believe that there has been insane money printing, there has been insane politics, there has been a lot of unchallenged garbage, which leads me to believe that the dollar might collapse and no longer be the global reserve currency. And Victor was just telling me some very interesting topics. So, what were you saying about the euro?
Yeah, there was a time when the euro was making its rise and the US dollar was falling. Basically, what I was saying was it's not the first time in the recent future, in the recent history, that the US dollar has been on the brink of collapse. There's a lot of people who don't look past themselves and don't look past America and think that America is the end all be all. And while there's a lot of great things in this country, there's a lot of great opportunity, there's a lot of good. There's also, with anything else, there's also corruption. There's also, bad politics. There's also lies being told at the highest level. There's also a lot of rich people who want to stay rich and don't want anybody else to get rich as well. But the the thing about what's happening now is that not only is the same type of pattern happening where the dollars keep destabilizing and China's making big plays, but we're also in the social media age where we get to see and hear a lot of it. A lot of that before never was told to us. A lot of that before was kept, swept under the rug. A lot of it was handled at the highest level. But right now we're getting to hear it and see it and view it differently than everybody before us who ever came was ever able to. And I think what that does in situations like this, for instance, if the dollar does destabilize and is no longer the global reserve currency, if that actually does happen, there's a lot of accountability that's going to be taking place because there's a lot of people who have access to information now. What's up, guys? This video is brought to you by Shady Rays, the company where I get these blue light glasses and all of my sunglasses, as well as these Blu-ray glasses here. Right now, for listeners of Sales at Home Podcast, you get $20 off your first order at shadyrays.com, and the link is in the bio. Go right now and get yourself some Shady Rays. They are amazing blue light glasses, really great sunglasses as well. They also have prescription glasses there for you to order as well. Right now, for our listeners, like I said, go to our link in the bio and get yourself some Shady Rays right now, $20 off your first order. See ya. And that's the thing about this age that we're in with social media. And we've seen it go both ways. You can rise real quickly, but you act up and you can fall just as quick. And there's a lot of people in government right now who are being held accountable or who are being brought to light by some of the newer, younger people in government who are just like, hey, this isn't cool. Like, what you've been doing isn't cool. How you've been acting isn't cool. There's people out there who are exposing the fact that the government is one way when there's cameras allowed, and they act another way when it's not. The same people who you see yelling and screaming on social media are the same people who are calm, cool, and collected when the cameras aren't there. It's because they're rallying themselves up for their constituents. And here's the thing about media and politics have gotten the tips, right? They've gotten the secret. Is if I can make you angry, I have your viewership, right? If I can make you angry, I have your attention. So rather than doing the right thing, I'm going to do the most provocative thing that makes you angry, because then I get ratings. And what happens when I get ratings? Those big companies that pay for ratings are like, wow, this person gets ratings, so I'm going to give him more view time. I'm going to follow him around more. I'm going to make sure that the camera's in his face. And then all of a sudden, now you become a celebrity. Now people know you. Now people who aren't informed at all when it comes time to the polls, who are they going to vote for? The person whose name they know, who they know barely anything about, right? But they've seen them constantly in the media. It's all about attention. It's all about attention and where you can get it. It's no longer, and it hasn't been for a while, about the right politics and the right. I mean, look at this whole TikTok ban drama, right? And the Congress held this whole big meeting on TikTok, and they grilled the owner, and they're trying to say it's because China has access to all of our data. So does Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and Twitter and Reddit, and everybody else has access to your data too. But what matters is that China has it, right? It's not even about TikTok. It's about that the people behind wanting TikTok to be banned have money, and that money gets lobbied out to different people for different reasons when they stand for it. And it lines the pockets of the people who are screaming the loudest. And that's a general rule when it comes to politics. The person screaming the loudest is probably hiding the most.
It's true. Yeah, bro. It's I think it all comes back to the money, right? I think like everything's based on agendas, and usually it's around money, power, control. My concern is if the power shifts and let's say China has the power over the US, right? Because something I've been thinking about a lot is like, subversion, right? How like if a country's too strong and too powerful, you just start destroying it from the inside. Like, like the thing that made the US powerful is like it's religious, and spiritual values, and the literally just the masculinity and fucking bravado of the dudes, and I don't know if you've noticed, but uh single parent households have increased. Like the amount has literally increased like 1% every year. The amount of testosterone in men has decreased literally 1% every single year. The amount of people that are sick in general has increased 1% every year. The attack on like Christian values and even like Islamic values, anything religious, it's just all happening at once, and it's been consistently happening, not all at once, but over the last 60 years, right? It's been happening, it's been happening, it's been happening. And now it's like America doesn't have a backbone, bro. Like, dude, this fucking war in Ukraine, which is absolute horseshit, and it's orchestrated and set up in a way where it's almost like a play. Like, dude, like the US, this is what the world sees, gave them $100 billion, right? And just made it worse. And what did China do? China just signed 14 documents with freaking Putin. If they actually are the ones to like stop the war, I'm starting to think they're the ones that set this whole thing up. But if they're the ones that stop the war, like, dude, all of a sudden they're the big boys in town. They're the ones in control. They're the ones that the world respects. And the yuan, it's not the New Zealand dollar or Singapore dollar or New Zealand dollar or Australian. It's not that anymore. Now it's the yuan, right? And more countries are dropping the dollar. And like, my concern is what makes America America besides the fact that it's the world reserve currency. Like, if America isn't the dollar, like if the dollar loses value like it did in Venezuela, there will be chaos. Like, there will be chaos at a level most can't even comprehend. America is mentally weak right now. People are not resilient. If somebody has 10 grand in the bank, 5 grand in the bank, if somebody's paycheck to paycheck, they got like 3 grand saved, they fucking worked their whole life for that, and they lose it, there will be mayhem in the streets at a level most of us can't even comprehend. And it just seems to me like it's closer than ever. And I think for us, we're remote sales reps, we can kind of go anywhere. We have businesses. Like, I think we'll be straight to a degree, especially if you have like gold and you have, different assets to protect yourself. But I don't know, bro. What does the everyday guy do? Like, what do you think about the possibility of this collapsing just based on like, number one, right? There's more money printed in the last 3 years than printed in the last 300 or 270 since the 1776 Declaration of Independence. More money's been printed in the last 3 years, right? Under a leader that can't even talk straight. He's not even a leader. He's put in place by the same people in power that orchestrated all the garbage that happened, right? That was outsourced to freaking consultants.
Yeah.
Did you know that the whole pandemic was outsourced to companies? The government didn't handle it. They just outsourced it to the same companies that are freaking working with the freaking WEF that happened and also happened to own all the farmland that now is like, dude, it's too much shit happening at once, bro. It just seems extremely weird to me. And it's actually concerning. Like, what do you think of that massive ramp?
I think that there's merit to that. There's merit to the thought. I don't think it's time to fear just yet. But what I do think, I do think it's time to prepare, but I also think it's time to change it. And I think that people who are the problem is, like you said, how do you destroy anything? How do you destroy a country? How do you destroy a school? How do you destroy a church? How do you destroy a family? You destroy its youth, right? You take
Yep.
away its youth, you take away its future, right? And what has been happening in this country is not necessarily, yes, it's an attack on family values, an attack on religious values, an attack on all these things, but it's an attack on our children, on our youth, right? And
Fucking Washington, bro. They just passed a law. They can take your kids if you don't want to fucking chop their dick off. They just passed a
here's the
law.
thing. And here's the thing. It's like, forget all of that. Forget all the hot button drama, right? Because that's all it is.
Uh-huh.
It's drama. It's hot button drama that
True.
affects a very limited
true.
amount of people, right? But they're going to throw it in your face like everybody in the world is going to lose their kids. It's a very limited amount of people that it affects. Okay, let's be real with that. But if
Just
you
start, though, bro.
if you take
In the wrong
away
direction.
the mental fortitude of children, mental fortitude of the youth, what's everybody trying to be right now? What is everyone's number one career path that they're striving for? They're striving for an influencer, right?
Yeah.
Whereas 10, 15 years ago, it was doctor, lawyer, astronaut, firefighter, police officer, right? Things that contribute to society in a way that allows backbones to be built, right? That
Right.
allows communities and cities and facilities to work. You've got people trying to be influencers left and right. And that's what the majority of these kids are seeing. Oh, this person made this much money on this app. This person made this much money selling their feet pics. This person showed a nipple and made this much money, right? And so you've got all these people trying to be influencers, and what are they doing? They're trying to influence masses of people by focusing on themselves. Think about it. What does an influencer do? They post themselves all day. They post what they do, what they wear, what they eat. Their focus is inward, right? Whereas doctors, police officers, firefighters, lawyers, their focus is outward. I want to have an impact on other people in my community, right? Now, not saying influencers can and won't have impacts on people in their communities. There's a lot of people who are making a lot of money as influencers, aka Mr. Beast, aka a lot of other people who are the same way, Keith Lee, right? Who are becoming influencers and having impacts on people. But that's very few and far between. So much so that when somebody like Keith Lee does it, and I don't know if you know who Keith Lee is, but when someone like Keith Lee comes together and makes an impact on people around him and wants nothing from it, nothing from those people, but just to bless those people and to help them grow. So do you know who Keith Lee is?
The wrestler or the fighter?
Yes, he was a fighter. He was a fighter. But
Mhm.
what he did is he one day started a TikTok channel where he goes out and he's interviewing, or he's buying food at a local restaurant in Vegas. He takes it back to his house very plainly, very simply, no production value, sits down, tries the food, rates it 1 to 10. And he says, hey, if you guys are ever in the area, this food is so good, you should go do it. You should go eat it. Then he does it for another restaurant and another restaurant and another restaurant. All of a sudden, these restaurants who are about to shut down, these restaurants who are hole in the walls that nobody knew about, have people lined up on the block who have making more sales in one day than they have in the past 3 years, are able to quit their jobs and do this full time, are able to hire more people, are able to grow and expand. And now they have customers down the block because one guy unselfishly went in, he pays for every single meal that he gets. He doesn't accept any meals for free. He tells them, I don't want your money. I want the money from these big companies with budgets like Chipotle and like all these other things, but I don't want anything from you. These mom and pops, I don't want anything. So what he does is he's going out and he's impacting other people. That's what's missing from America. If we were to say, how do we fix America right now? We start by the youth impacting other people. So when we talk about, the dollar and government and all that's great. All of that's true. All of that's factual. All of those things have an effect on how we are as a country, right? But the biggest change, the biggest way to move this country forward in a positive way is for young people to go out and impact other people around them in a positive way. And so when you talk about how do I do that, you go do that by starting a business. You do that by, you do that by going out and cleaning up at your local park. You do that by good big brothers, good big sisters, whatever you do, right? Whatever you choose to do for your life, even if that is an influencer, you use your platform to bless other people and to build other people up. Because what happens when I build you up, you now in turn want to build somebody else up. And then you want to build somebody else up. And then you want to build somebody else up. All of a sudden you have a community of people who've built each other up. And that's why America was so strong. That's why you couldn't mess with America in the beginning.
You know what? That's a really good point. You know what that reminds me of, dude? I was having a conversation about this with Marco.
Yeah.
Fucking Marco Polo, the legend, dude. I was on his podcast and we were talking about it. Where's the US headed? And I started thinking, like, dude, like, what if I think what's gonna happen is you're gonna have like those influencers, bro. You're gonna have those people of like real strong influence that are really like motivating people. And I think if the US dollar collapses, the world's going to become more tribal because right, the United States is united, right? It breaks apart, it's just apart. So now it's very tribal. Everybody's in their communities, right? I think what's going to happen is because social media exists and there's so many people who love and worship influencers, every influencer is going to basically have their community, and those are going to be the tribes that society's made of, right? So like literally somebody's follower count, right? If they're genuine people that follow them and they have that like a message, I think that's how society is going to be divided, bro. And I think over time, those will start to maybe come together as like a United States, or one of them is going to grow to be like another empire. But I think it's going to be less about countries. It's going to be more about communities around influencers. And so this is the time to cement yourself as an influencer and like as an island that people can kind of come to as creating a tribe. I think creating a tribe is really important right now. That's what my
I think
intuition
it's
tells me.
always been important. I think it's always been important for different reasons, not necessarily for what you're saying, but I think it's always been important for.
It has, but now it's for survival.
Yeah.
Like before, you didn't really need one, but you if you want to thrive, yeah, you can just chill and fucking
Yeah.
government will send you a stimulus check. Now it's like if you don't have a tribe, your freaking house is getting robbed into, and like
I definitely think that it's going to come down to people who have and have not. And I don't mean money and goods. I mean work ethic and drive and
right.
the will and the
It's a good distinction.
support to get somewhere. Because yes, all right, let's go on a limb and say tomorrow the US dollar collapses, right? Does that mean that everyone is SOL? That everyone is done for? Not necessarily. Will a lot more people fail? Of course. But will a lot of people who are still like strong and pushing and trying to make something of themselves survive? Of course they will. And they'll do very well.
Right.
Chaos always breeds two different outcomes. Right? Chaos is, it's opportunities, and then it's just utter failure.
Right.
And if you look at every big failure, every big government flaw, every big depression we've had, there are people that have come out of all of that. Think of the Great Depression. Look how many families came out of the Great Depression rich and are still rich.
Yep.
Look how many businesses, look how many things happened in that time period. Look at the pandemic. Call it what you want, right? But how many people started businesses in the pandemic who are thriving right now? How many people found new ways to do things and created a demand and then supplied that demand with what they offered, and then all of a sudden they're thriving. Now they're living post-pandemic how they never thought they could pre-pandemic, right? Because they put their heads together and was like, how do we do this? And they came up with an idea, and now they're selling t-shirts or making banners or filling some need that people didn't even know they had.
Yeah,
Right.
that's powerful, bro. I agree. Um, that's huge. It's interesting because it's like it's like in situations like this, bro, it's adapt or die, you know?
Yeah.
Because me too, dude. Like before the pandemic, I was working in a fucking restaurant, you know? Like, and as soon as the pandemic came, my income quintupled, and you know what I mean? Like, I think, I think it's adapt or die. Yes, a lot die. Like, I think 70% of small businesses got taken out with the pandemic, some crazy number like that. But do you know how much freaking wealth got distributed and how many people got rich out of their fucking minds? Like just
Yeah.
living a totally different life as a result of it. So I
I
think
would be
it's
interested to see how many small businesses came out of the pandemic and how many of those 70% were pre-pandemic businesses who didn't adapt.
a great, I think that's exactly the case. The ones that don't adapt completely disappear. And it's interesting because when you think of haves and have-nots, what you're doing is you're getting rid of the lazy middle. The lazy middle is where you work, but you're just doing enough.
Yeah.
It's Les Brown had a quote. He was like, um, how is it? Most people live a life where they work just hard enough so they don't get fired. Something like that. Something like that. They work just
Yeah.
hard enough so they don't get fired. And I think that's the middle class. The middle class works just hard enough so they don't get fired. The middle class will work hard, but they won't think because they just want to get the work over with. And all they can think is, I want to finish this. I want to get this out of the way. I want to get this done so I can then do this. And then, then you have the people that are just at the bottom, lazy, and they're always going to be at the bottom. And then you have the people that are at the top, right? And they're just thinking all day and probing and adapting and trying new things and overachieving.
Mhm.
You're right. You're right. I kind of sometimes I'll spaz out a little bit, but it's true. For the overachievers, bro, the people that are really fucking getting after it, like you're gonna be fine. And there's gonna be so many opportunities coming out of this, bro. You don't want to hear this thing I'm investing into, bro? I won't share all the details, but it's a little fucked up. But here's what's gonna happen. If everything that we see continues in this direction and it comes to pass, China already has this, all the massive lockdowns. In my opinion, the pandemic was to prepare people for lockdowns. What's going to happen is people are going to start living in virtual reality. People are going to start living online, right? It's already happening. With the pandemic, a lot of people, I didn't think it was real. Dude, I've met people these last couple of years that literally spend 8, 9, 10 hours a day in a virtual world. Maybe they're wearing a headset. Maybe it's just a game where they're a character and their character interacts and socializes with other people. That's their entire social life. I had a dude showing me his fucking room. Like I was like it's an actual thing. And so what's going to happen is people are going to start more and more people are going the have-nots. They're going to start living in that virtual world, bro, having their social life in that virtual world. That's going to be a massive opportunity if you can own cities in that virtual world, right? There's one project that I'm familiar with that already has 5 banks backing the world, $300 million a day worth of transactions. It's going up like crazy, right? So that's an opportunity where if you have some equity and you know the right people, like you can become a millionaire. You can do some really cool stuff. If you think about the whole thing of AI, all of a sudden everybody's talking about you can make a bunch of money with AI. Hey, you can do this with AI. You can do this with AI. I'm doing trading and I just saw some shit about AI. Like you can freaking, you can do this to make 10 grand. I was like, how the fuck? And I'm thinking about paying for it because it's like, oh, cool. Like, hey, this might work. Like there's so much opportunity being created. So if you're an overachiever, a bear market, because this is essentially what it is. It's a very aggressive bear market. If you're an overachiever, what are the 3 stages, bro? You have a recession, you have a depression, and then you have a collapse, right? A recession, depression, and collapse, if you're a fucking overachiever, is a place where there's so much opportunity because whenever there's change, there's new problems. And solving problems is how you get paid.
Mhm.
So I think I would actually challenge anybody listening, dude, like, yeah, a lot of bad shit's going to happen. There's going to be so much fucking opportunity. If you take the next 3 months, the 3 weeks, 3 days, however much time you have, 3 years, however much time you have while things are still good to really get on your shit. If things hit the fan, you not only are you going to be good, your family's going to be good. Everybody in the community that you're influencing around you, your little island, right? Your little tribe that you're creating, they're going to be good. So this is the time to step up and do some badass shit.
Yeah. What I'll say to that is, while it's time to think about yourself and your future, you cannot forget to think about everybody else around you.
But
Because
if you don't work on yourself, you can't help everybody around
true,
you,
true. And
right?
that's here's what I mean by that. So you think about everybody else around you and you work on yourself with the goal of being able to help everybody else around you. You know what I mean?
100%.
Because like you said, no man is unto himself an island, right? And so
Right.
you're not there by yourself. And those are the people who are going to fail. If the market collapses, the people who are by themselves will fail. We are not meant to be alone.
Yeah.
But you got to also remember that the more people you have around you, the less resources you have between you, right? Unless everybody
Yep.
around you is building resources, right? But if you're the only one building resources, then everybody else around you is eating off of your resources, right? So you
Yep.
build yourself, and while you can, you make sure that you influence somebody else to build themselves. And then you influence somebody else to build themselves. And then you start to change the world around you because now everybody's building themselves towards something better. And that's how it changed. That's if you were to throw all of what we just been talking about our throw it all out and think about government, right? And what's going on with the government right now and how crazy it is. If one person can get into government and influence one other person to make changes, and then one other person makes changes, will eventually change happen? Yes. Will it take some time? Sure. Will it take some cracking heads and rewriting things and restructuring the way things are? Probably. But change will happen. The problem is people don't want to do it. People don't want to make change. They want change to happen to them. They don't want to make the change happen for them, right?
Yep.
And so when you're thinking about what am I do? What am I going to do? What is my future? Which every person who's ever lived has thought. What is my future? What's going to happen? Everybody has had a situation where they're looking at the future and they're like, man, this world is this, or man, the economy is this, or man, this sucks, right? How am I going to become better? How am I going to do something with what's in front of me? And they've had to make
Mhm.
the decision. I'm either going to make the change happen, or I'm either going to sit back and wait for change to come. And
Right.
majority of the people who wait for change to come fail. So you get out
Fuck.
there and you make change happen, and you make change happen for everybody else around you. That's the only way success comes.
You know what, dude? And being the person that makes change happen by doing it on a microscopic scale, I think one thing that can, and dude, I fucking fell into this. Like, dude, like, if you think about something like macroeconomic, right? Like, you know, Biden just did this. This governor just did this. This state just passed this, right? You don't really have control over that, right? You really don't have that much control or influence over that. But you do. You have control over the conversations you have, the people that you interact with. And I think on a very, very microeconomic scale, if we think about ourselves like on an individual level, bro, I think we are able to have a lot more effect than we think. And like to give an example to the people listening, dude, because dude, I've gotten so like, and I'm sure we all have at one point, but dude, I've gotten so like comfortable in my life at different periods. And an example of, and it's funny because this is something that like you tell somebody if you're coaching them, you tell somebody if they're on like a consult with you, right, or a sales call. It's like, where do you either grow the most, in your comfort zone or out of your comfort zone? Why is that? Right? And it's like that's really what that is, bro. When you're waiting for change to come, you're comfortable. You
Mhm.
can work a couple hours a day, your bills are paid, you can go do your thing, chilling, going out
Yeah.
on dates, you know? When you're getting after it, like okay, let's say that you're say you're an appointment setter, right? Your goal is you want to make 10, 20, 30K a month. You want to be a closer. and you feel you're doing good in your appointments that way, right? The person that waits for things to come, not that much urgency. They just make their calls, try to hit their KPIs, day's over. The person that wants change, they truly want to make change happen and be the change. They finish their day, they're tired, and they're like, right? Maybe even a friend hits them up like, hey, let's go out, let's go play ball, let's do this. They're like, no. They go back, right? They'll listen to their calls. They'll figure out what's preventing them from, setting more appointments or having more convert or why do they have so many like no shows, right? Mm-hmm. They'll reach out to other closers like, dude, how come this person didn't close? They'll listen to their calls, right? They'll study why they didn't fix it, and they'll even get a mentor, and they'll work on improving their individual skills, right? Every single day they're improving 1%. And now they're starting to have conversations with the owners like, hey, how can I get into a position as a closer in the next 3 months? That's my goal. How can I do it? I'm willing to do whatever it takes. If you can do that on a microeconomic, individual level on your own pace, that's the same process required to change a country and a nation.
Yeah.
So
you can't change the world, but you can change your world.
100%. And the world is just a bunch of our worlds put together, right?
Yep.
Dude, what do you think a human body is? It's just a bunch of little worlds working at once.
Yeah.
If you look at a market, if you look at a US 30, the Dow Jones on a 1 hour time frame, you have a little candlesticks. We're talking about trading, right? The market moves in certain directions. There's millions of people putting money in there. How come it only does one movement? Because this is what all the little movements together made happen, right? If the majority of the people bought, that shit went up. If the majority of the people sold, that shit went down. And so if the majority of the people are working on themselves and improving their values and improving their strength and improving their skill set and just everything needed to make a better country on an individual level, if we have more of that than the fucking evil that exists, guess who's gonna win?
Yeah.
Guess who's gonna win? So
yeah.
That's powerful shit. And I think dude, especially the people that like are really representing like Christian values, Islamic values, right? Like I think you need to be the change you want to see in the world, right? And so what better time than right before I fucking collapse?
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah, dude. It's crazy.
It's great. Well, guys, thank you for tuning in. I know you guys were expecting part 5 of How to Grow Your Network, and we will.
That's next week. This is more important.
Next week it is coming, but right now we just wanted to spend some time diving into a little bit of what's been going on in our heads and what's been going on in our country and how we can put a better spin on it, put a positive light on it, and look at what's really important, and that's bettering ourselves and bettering people around us.
Don't be a victim. Work on yourself. We know that like people are stressed the fuck out about this stuff. Like everybody's talking about it. It's important to be aware. That's the first step towards fixing a problem. The next step is how you respond to it. And you need to respond, not react. So here's how you do it. Cool. Appreciate you guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We are on Apple Music and Spotify. Don't forget to rate us 5 stars. And
peace.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching Sales at Home podcast. If you loved our content and would like to see more, please hit that like, subscribe, and that notification bell to make sure that you don't miss out on any episodes coming up. If you'd like to see more of Jaydaniel, click here. If you'd like to see more of the Ninja Closer, click here. If you'd like to get your questions answered by us on our show, email us at salesathomepodcast@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram. Peace.